Welcome everyone to Instinctual Acting's first roundtable with 4 of our guest directors. So first and foremost, everyone, if you could introduce yourself, starting this side.
Okay. To which camera? Where do you want it?
Me.
Yeah, cool. So, hi, I am William Alexander Boyd III. I am a writer and director, predominantly horror, but expanding into psychological thriller.
Hi, I am Luca Nappa. I'm a writer-director. I've done a few short films that are like a mix of genres and developing my first feature film as well.
I'm Katia Shannon, I'm a writer-director, and I have a body of work in short form, and I'm moving into features.
I'm Brennan. I'm a writer-director of short and feature films, and I also run a short film festival called Exit 6.
Much better introductions than me, so.
Short and sweet, everyone's nicely. So yeah, let's just get straight into this. So how long have you guys all been working with instinctual acting?
Since November 2021 for me. So I guess that goes on 5 years. Yeah, it's just been something that's just kept me very agile as a director, because I've been able to just, keep developing my own skills. And, a director doesn't get that many days on set. And so you want to make sure that you're still sharp, that you're still able to communicate, to receive, to grow.
I totally agree. I started in November 2023, I think. And it's just so valuable to be able to practice your craft while working with actors. And it's something that not many directors get to do. Many directors that I know get to do. So it's lovely to be able to do that while also doing some good work with actors and improving.
We must have started around a similar time. I think I'm October, November 23 when we first worked on Dracula for a couple of days.
I remember
Dracula. And it was baptism of fire for me, in the sense that I think we ended up working with 25 actors in just like a couple of days, which is not something that you often get at all. So to have that as kind of one of the first things I did for Instinctual Acting was brilliant. And it's kind of not let up since. It's always just you cram as much as you can in with all the actors that you have and the time you have. And as Katia says, like, you always learn, and it keeps your kind of wits about you as a director and when you're not working on projects as well. So it's, I think, as valuable for us as it is the actors who attend.
Totally.
And for myself, it was about, I think, like autumn 2018. So,
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Longest one standing.
Yeah, Michael saw me when I had a baby face. So, but,
Before you had the beard.
yeah, I've always had a beard. But yeah, like, it's one of the key things I think for myself, growth-wise, has just been being able to understand how to effectively communicate with actors. Because as directors, we kind of look at things from a more story point of view. And just seeing how actors are taught and how they express themselves and how they learn, and that has really been helpful translating it onto set and working with the actors, also understanding their vulnerabilities and how to, in a sense, make them feel at ease, and just like, it's a space for them to make mistakes, but I think as directors ourselves, we're also in getting that out of it as well. So yeah, it's been a great.
That kind of leads me in nicely, actually, because what I wanted to talk to you about is how the workshops actually help you develop as director. I mean, you kind of answered it already for me, but I've directed a few of the workshops myself, and one of the things I've noticed is it's so nice to be able to direct without the pressure of being on a formal set, and then being able to give the actors feedback at the end of the workshops and show back what they've been working on. I've found personally that it's helped me direct more effectively, because you can speak to them in a much more open forum, whereas when you're on set, the pressure's on, you're on a time schedule, things like that. So how has it helped you develop as directors working in an open forum in the workshops?
Well, for me, what's been really nice about directing in the workshops is, as you say, the difference between the workshops and being on set is that when you're directing on set, you have 1,000,001 other things you're thinking about, as well as the actors and their performances. You're thinking about shots and cuts and production design and all sorts of other stuff. Whereas when you're in the workshops, all you need to think about is the characters and the actor, what they're bringing to a character. I think what I've personally really liked about it is that it seems something of a generalized comment to talk about directing actors, but each one of the actors brings with them their own personality as well as their own what they're bringing to that character. So learning what kind of communication or direction works with a different personality, I think is a really useful thing to have so many actors that you're working with, that it just sort of strengthens the experience you're getting from all the different kind of actors that you'll be working with and communicating with across the rest of your career. It's really valuable for that.
And like some of the actors, you know, it's like the first acting class that they've ever taken, and some of them are trained in classically trained actors, working actors who kind of come in as a gym or as like a top up, and so you get such a range of actors that, you know, you're not necessarily, like for a director, it's great to be able to be nimble, to react to like who is the person in front of me, and what do I need to tell them that's going to help them grow. And also because, you know, we've been doing this for a while, you can see them grow as well, which is something you never get to see on the set. You know, on set, it's like you get that window of time with someone, and then that time is gone, and then maybe you see them 6 months later when you release the film.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's quite nice to be able to develop someone. And I've seen actors that I was just like, they've given us performances that have, you know, completely like mind blown me, because you know, they come to, you know, points of like leaps, and it's so beautiful to be part of that journey with them.
Even on that though, just to say, because I've literally seen actors who English is even their first or second language, you know, over the span of time, learning their craft, learning the language, and just like going from novices day one to just like literally crying on cue, you know, and getting even me emotional. So that, yeah, that's definitely one of the highlights.
You guys are answering my questions before I asked them. Literally leads on so nicely. That was lovely.
I was going to say, I think that's beautiful, and it also answers your question, because I think what I've learned by being here for more than a year now, there were times where I maybe thought, oh, acting is just a talent and you either have it or you don't have it. And then being here has taught me, oh, it really is about how you communicate with the actor. And again, it feels banal, but then when you see it in action and you see the actor growing, and sometimes it's our notes, sometimes Michael says just something that, it happened to us yesterday where Michael just said a couple things that I was like, oh, I wouldn't have said those things, and they completely changed the performance. And then you see the actor grow. So it's beautiful. It's a gym for how effectively you can communicate with an actor as fast as possible and achieve a result, I think.
Are there any tricks that you've learned through the work? Well, not tricks, but techniques, I would say, that you've learned through the workshops where you're like, oh, that was a golden nugget of how to get a message across to an actor quickly?
One that I wrote down in my notes is something that I've heard Michael say, which wasn't in my training. Very simple, which is asking the actors what they're stripped of in a scene. Because a lot of times notes are more about, you have this, you feel this, and this is happening to you. But that note I like, because it's just a very quick way of telling an actor, what's your character missing here? What are they stripped of? And it's another way of framing where they are in the scene, which I really like.
I've not heard that one. The one I've heard is the secret. Keep a secret to yourself.
Yeah.
Each actor, sorry, let me rephrase that. Each actor should keep a secret to themselves throughout the whole production, and not tell anyone. And I've noticed that it works so well. It really does work well. Have you guys worked with any other acting schools?
I have, partly through training, like myself going to some, but yeah, I would say the format that Michael presents it in is really meets both like my creative sort of gym workout and like the flexibility of it being, you know, evenings and just very kind of as you go with the schedule, like whether you're available or you're not. So that format has kind of worked really well, rather than saying like, okay, you're like, semester starts this date and you're fully booked for the next, 12 months, which, it's harder to balance if you're a director.
Well, I hear this is changing soon. What's this?
Yeah.
I hear you guys are in January. What's happening in January?
You're telling me.
I know it's expanding a little bit. It's getting a bit more structured.
So a little birdie told me that you guys are going to be running a lot more workshops in January.
I heard
Is this the first you're hearing of this?
I heard that, but I mean, I've heard versions of that for a few years, so I kind of see how it goes and I take it one step at a time.
Well,
And I think we heard that they're like we're looking to do like daytime classes, which in a sense I think would expand the amount of people that can come in and just like give more variety and options. Because sometimes I imagine like a lot of actors, even ourselves working freelance, you might actually not even have some evenings, and it makes makes a lot more sense to just pop in the afternoon. You know, like this is being filmed in the afternoon. You know, and we're all freelance. So we all made it in.
Tell me a little bit about the screenwriting. Are you doing a screenwriting?
Yeah,
workshop?
so I taught a screenwriting seminar over 3 courses in the winter, and it's something that we're going to be expanding on in the fall. And essentially, it's just, I think, a really great opportunity to work with actors through story, and for them to learn about script writing also helps them as actors read a text. And I kind of went through the classic sort of film school and like English lit side of things. So, but not everyone has, and so it's quite nice as an actor to be able to kind of, I think, hopefully what they can take from it is through their own writing they realize the layering aspects and how intentionality can be read in different ways, and so that's been really fun. And
So how does it look? What's the kind of the structure for it?
Well, I'm not sure about the fall one yet, but the last one we did over 3 parts was essentially, the first class was about showing them what the short film sort of general structure looks like in, what kind of elements and core elements it has, or globally, and then they essentially wrote a treatment and a logline and a first part of their script for the second class, and then the final draft for the third class, and then we talked about it. There were like 3 weeks between each classes, so they had time to develop those skills, because that's the thing with screenwriting classes is like you have a lot of homework when you go back home, and everyone engaged in a different capacity. I think it challenged some of them. I think some of them had only ever been presented with like scripts like ready-made, and they didn't really they hadn't quite appreciated the work that goes into world building, but it's the same thing that then they can apply as actors. So I think it's like a double beneficial kind of class to take. But I mean, it's very much through my own, like, screenwriting is very much through my own lens, and I think like everyone brings a different color to it.
Well, I think it's always worth kind of dabbling either, because people always ask me like, do you act as well? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
So I do think it's very beneficial to, if you're an actor, to dip your toe into the writing side or the production side of things, and vice versa. If you're typically behind the lens, it is scary to kind of take that leap and go in front of the line, to go in front of the lens and act. And I think it really gives you an appreciation of how the other side of the world works. So I imagine that was quite well received by the actors.
I don't get the feedback directly, but I've heard that they liked it. And to be honest, like, if Michael wants to book me again to do it, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it.
Something must have gone right.
Something went right. But I mean, I wouldn't, I think everyone has their own way into storytelling, and I think that's what I wanted to emphasize with them, was like, essentially, there isn't like a one way fits all. You have to follow your story impulses, but that instinct is very close to possibly the instinct of an actor, like discovering who their character is, and very similar to the idea of a director discovering like why that script is appealing to them and how they want to treat it tonally.
So just quickly, have any of you acted before? Any of you been in front?
I have, yeah.
You have?
I did a bit of acting in high school. It is incredibly useful. I could have never been an actor, but it is, as you were saying, incredibly useful to have been on the other side and just realize how weird and complicated it is when you're on the other side. And then when you communicate, hopefully you bring with you some of that experience when you're speaking to an actor, and not making them feel on the spot, but instead collaborating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, I was a child actor in Nigeria.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
For a number of years, so yeah, that was fun. It's not obviously, it wasn't as technical as like what we'd be learning in IA and all that kind of stuff, but it was fun. That's kind of what got me into this environment and into this industry. And in a sense, there's one fun story I like to always tell, which is like they basically just let me run around on set until they needed me, and then they dragged me on set. But then things there were not as structured or as safe as you'd say. But like this story, so I needed to cry in one scene, and obviously I wasn't taught how to do that, so I always kind of found it very funny because they were meant to like slap me, and then I meant to act like I'm crying. I didn't have the tools to do that. So what the dude comes, the guy that does this, he walks up to me in between takes because we've tried this like 10 times, and he's like, "Hey, listen, yeah. When I was about your age, I was acting as well, and we needed to slap someone for them to cry, and it wasn't working for me. So what happened is that the person slapped me, and the tears came out, and then he walked away, and I was like, is he about to slap me?" Call action. He slaps the hell out of me. The tears came out. They called cuts. They moved on. So
Wow.
What? What was this?
Can we do this at IA?
that is the speed. That's like you want to learn that the crying workshop. Yeah. Wait, I was on the show for 2 more years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I think that's also interesting, right? Because that's the stories you hear.
Yeah.
I think from Italian neorealism as well. There is so much of those stories with bicycle thieves that were like letting the kid freeze so he would cry. I think for me it's been really interesting as a director to see how you work with actors to get to those places with everyone feeling okay. Like none of those crazy on-set stories from like last century. Just the right way to communicate, and I think I see a lot of that at IA for sure.
Well, and because you have the, sorry.
I was going to say, well, watching Michael work with them, he tends to make it real. You know, he finds ways with the different actors to make it real to you, because fake tears or alligator tears look garbage on camera.
Yeah.
But when you have the real emotions, that's when you get the best, performances.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's about holding space for people as well to receive whatever they have to give, and whoever, like to meet them where they are at that day. And, on a set, sometimes you're under pressures that are external and you don't necessarily always have the place to hold that space for people. But I think as a training tool, it's amazing to be able to create that dialogue with actors. And, when they do give you something, that is, it's a real emotion in a constructed context, but the emotion is real, and you do receive it, and I see it as a gift. And I think if you have that exchange with empathy, then you're creating safety for people. But also, I have some tools from a different school that I use in those contexts as well, in terms of like creating opening and closure. When you're directing difficult scenes and difficult material, which I think that would be actually a really great side course to give to Michael, if you're listening.
What would you call it?
It's directing intimate and difficult material.
Right, okay.
Basically, that was what I learned. But I think for actors, it's an interesting thing to be able to create those spaces for yourself. If, say, you're on a bigger production and you don't have the time, and the director hasn't either got the tools or the attention to realize that maybe that scene is going to be challenging for you personally, to approach the day and the work and to create a container for it to exist within that framework, and for it not to be, to be able to let that go at the end of the day.
I think that I've noticed that there's definitely like I definitely try to employ this. There's like an etiquette on set when you're shooting those difficult scenes and those scenes where the actor really needs to go to a dark space. And it kind of leads me on quite nicely to this next question, which is, do you have a different approach on set for different genres when you're directing different genres? So say, for example, if you're doing a comedy, do you find that you have a much more upbeat demeanour on set, and then say you're doing a horror or like a romance, there's a different air on the set?
No, everybody has to fall in line and listen to my
I feel like I can't I don't know. That's also what's interesting to compare with other directors. I only get to do that at IA, like when we direct together sometimes.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't, and we say this sometimes with Michael as well, if you're trying to be funny, then all I can do, I feel like, is feel in my guts, this is how I want the scene, and I need it to look as raw and real as possible. And if that's funny, then we're going that direction. If that's horror, but I feel like I don't change my approach other than maybe the work with the actors where, you know, maybe I'm gonna let them improv something more in the horror genre, or maybe something funny, create bonding as opposed to create distance between them. But I don't think I could ever be like, oh, this is a comedy, we all have to be, happy. Personally. I don't know about you.
I mean, for myself, it's always just let it vibe, because I think I let my crew determine the energy. I tend to be someone that I work with people I vibe with. All my work as a director is done in prep. So on set, we've all had the discussions. I'll approve things at the end. My only job is to be with the actors. So the set just is what it is. Like it's like casting. You cast the right people, and it makes the directing easier. So you get the right people on set, and the environment just tends to be chill and just tends to be relaxed. And however it goes, because regardless of you trying to make it happy, when you have 10 minutes left and you have to rig up that C-stand, get this shot, no one's thinking
happiness
of
goes
it.
out the window.
Yeah, it's like, let's get it done, you know. So it's one of those things. Yeah.
I don't know. I've had like scenes where I always try and create a two-way communication between me and the actors, and ultimately it's my job is to protect them and their space to be able to give the performance that I need. And obviously the rest of the job has been done in prep with regards to the rest of the team and how we've created our scene plans and all of that. But you know, protecting that space and giving them what they need, and like, you know, for example, I directed an older woman who was having like a shower, and she was naked on film, like not really naked, but and I knew that was a hard scene for her. But also, if you have any actors under the water for any time longer than 5 minutes, they start becoming cold, and you quickly, like, things quickly escalate. So I think it's really important to be sensitive to treat the human first, and make sure you're within consent and within reason, always ensuring that everyone's on board with this plan. And though you might go through discomfort, you know, with this actress, we talked about the scene a lot before we did it. We had made a plan. So when we were in the middle and things weren't comfortable, I was able to check in and say, like, we're in the middle of this discomfort, but we agreed that this was gonna happen. Are you still good? And she's like, yeah, let's get through it. So it's not always about, not every scene's gonna be enjoyable to film, but if everyone's on board consent-wise and you've created as much of like a safety net for that person as possible, then they feel respected. And that's the name of the game, really.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Totally agree with that. Totally agree with that.
I think there was a very, very long anecdote. I was doing a film, and there was this lady playing the grandma, and she had never acted before, and she was great up until this point. And then we start filming a scene where she's like in a hospital bed, and the family's around her, and the room is filled with like a haze, and she was like, she's claustrophobic. And it was and me as a director, nobody knew this. She hadn't brought this up before. And it was an open space, but I think just everything just kind of got to her. So cleared everybody out, spoke to her, and she was like, she really wanted to get it done. So what we did is we shot the whole thing, but I was off camera holding her hand.
Right.
Yeah,
Nice.
just holding her hand to be there for her, and that's what she needed. And then we got everything quickly, and then we moved on. But as you said, you have to create a space where they also feel safe enough to, you know, express that, share that, and even want to continue. Because if she didn't feel safe at all, that would have been the end of it, and it would have, the entire film would have collapsed, you know. But we built that rapport. So it's the director-actor relationship is still very important.
I think it does come down to emotional intelligence as well. But to be able to direct effectively, you need to be able to read people, not just actors, but crew as well, and kind of gauge the atmosphere on set. And like, it's very easy to get wrapped up in I've got to get this scene done, we need to shoot this, we've got 10 minutes, But to be a good director, an effective director, I think you really do have to have those people skills, whether you're talking to crew or cast. So like perfect example, of just being able to hold her hand and just make sure she felt comfortable and things like that. And you got the job done in the end. How did it come out?
Really good. Really good. We won a couple BAFTA and Oscar qualifiers.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
So, it was a good film at the end.
Amazing. So, quick one. As a director, what key traits do you look for in actors?
Well, I think the main one for me would be the ability to listen to a note, absorb a note, take it on and adapt a performance accordingly. I've worked with some actors before where you've tried to have a conversation about what you might like to see tried slightly differently, and then the next take is exactly the same as the one before, and then you kind of in a position where, was I not clear before, or I've got to change tack about how to do it again, and then a third time it can still happen. So what you want is someone who is bringing what they want to bring to a character, but have the flexibility to take on board something they're not seeing, because they're in it when they're doing it. They're not seeing what's on camera, they're not seeing what we're seeing from afar. So someone who's able to take on board and act on a note I think is very important.
Very good point. Very good point. Any others?
A big head. So that's nice close up. Big juicy head.
I think having worked, one of my shorts was with children, so like young actors, so I had to learn different techniques to work with very young performers, and that stayed with me. I usually try to see if we go on an improv that's somehow related to the character, how close is the actor to that sensibility. So it's not necessarily they're the same person, but do they understand the character we're casting for or we're trying, and can they improvise within that space with some notes from me, but also just playing and understanding. I think that's the most important thing to me sometimes. Because if they get that, then you can work together on the character, I feel.
Yeah, I've cast like in different ways, like from tapes to a conversation with someone to offering a role without having ever had a chance to actually meet the person. Because there's different, the industry forces you into different kinds of types of casting sometimes. But I always try to see if they connect with the material. And if there's that emotional connection with the material and we both agree that my version of blue and their version of blue is kind of close and the same, then we know we have a good starting point to grow from. And then I've adapted characters to fit the actor that was cast in the film, because it was the best thing to do for the story, and the performance was really good because of it, So there's not so much of I don't come in with such a rigid idea of you come and you do this service. It's much more of a creative dialogue, and you have that little voice that tells you inside at some point, green light with someone, and you just trust that.
Yeah.
You're like, we're on this together now.
That makes sense. No, mate, I've definitely had that on set, or during an audition or something, you just go, they're perfect.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It is a bit like dating.
It is like
it's
dating,
banal
yeah.
to say, but it is a
Even
bit
if
like
no one
dating.
else sees it, but you're like, that's exactly who I had in mind.
Yeah, and then it's matchmaking because you want the chemistry between two people to live and exist, and sometimes you don't have the time to build that story behind them. It's quite a fun part of it.
Oh, so just to end round that off, I was going to say and for myself, it's also just a personal connection as well with the person, with the actors, because the reality is there are a lot of very talented actors out there. There are a lot of very talented actors out there, and one of the skills that is great for actors to have is also the interpersonal soft skills as well. Because for myself, at least my leads, I'm always going to have a coffee with my leads to just gauge, because you have a couple of options. They're all great actors. What stands out? Me personally, I want to know that I can have a conversation with you and I can vibe with you, because I also know that, okay, fine, this is the person that we're going to enter the fire of filmmaking together, because when things get hectic, we have to know that, okay, fine, both of us are there with each other, we respect ourselves, we want the same things, we can communicate effectively, and, there's that shared confidence, Me personally, I would even take someone who I feel is, let's say, a slightly less strong performer, or just slightly maybe doesn't fit the role 100%, if I feel like I connect with that human being. So Definitely, I think that's even a line against instinctual. It's like there's lots of things that Michael will say to, like, you know, it's not just about the performance, it's about how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you present yourself in self-tapes. These things people are paying attention to, and people are making judgments on yourself. Because when you get to these roles and these final decisions, there are lots of talented people, and you have to stand out. You know?
And in the case of IA as well, what I always really love to see is when an actor is doing a particular scene, they are already familiar with the rest of the script and what they're not doing. So if they were just reading a scene in isolation, there's a certain way they could play it. But if they've read the whole thing and they remember this other moment for this character happened 40 pages back, which has relevance in how this scene would be portrayed, it's always nice to see that they're very familiar with the character in its entirety, not just the scene that they're doing for us. That's always lovely to see.
I've noticed that, actually. Well, the amount of scripts that IA actually goes through is mind-boggling. I've filmed a few workshops where the kind of format is, obviously we come in, the actors are presented with the script, they get it on the day, and it's literally like, right, you've got 10 minutes, go and remember your lines outside. And a lot of them come in and they've it's just gone in like a sponge.
And that's such good training. Like, it's so invaluable, because I think, you know, it's not necessarily something that every classical acting school teaches. Like, they're under the pressure of just like go and make a choice. Bring it in the room, and it's maybe more of an industry, you know, sometimes squeeze in requirement to be able to be like, this is a new page, it just came in today, let's go.
I was going to say exactly that, because that's one of the things that stuck the most with me, the workshops where they get the script on the day. And again, having been here for a while now, I've seen actors improve, and maybe a couple months ago there was one where we were impressed and Michael was joking, oh, did you guys get this script a month ago? No, they got it an hour ago, but they knew it all. And this wasn't happening with those actors the previous year. So teaching that skill, it's great for industry, for getting actors ready for the industry, I think.
I love it when the actors get to the point where they can come in, they've prepared for a whole week for a scene, and then we just threw them a curveball, say, okay, you're not doing this scene, you're going to do this scene. go outside, you have like 15 minutes, learn it and come back, and then they come back and they smash it.
But that's the thing, it's like the thing of being nimble and to be able to react to the situation. And, you know, sometimes you are on set and you're like, that scene's just not going to work as it's written. We're going to have to change. We've got to move locations soon. We're going to change the dynamic. And you need actors who are like, yeah, cool, let's roll with it. Not just like, but I had blocked it all in my head and now I have to grieve that. And it's like, no, we don't have time for that.
I mean, that's something I'd kind of selfishly don't appreciate about actors. When you're directing and you just expect them, okay, now do it like this, and they just get it straight away. And that is one thing I've noticed that IA has helped actors with, is just like you were saying earlier about taking a note and changing things up quickly and being malleable to what the director wants. That is one thing I've noticed about working with IA and what the actors gain from it. So a lot of the actors have told me that it is almost like a baptism of fire, because when they come to the workshops, yes, they're so intense and they're really full on, and you're put on the spot and you're made to feel quite vulnerable and just in front of everyone, perform now. And then when they actually get onto a set, because a lot of them, they've never been on a professional set when they first start with the school. And then when they do eventually get that first job and they go onto a set, it's so much more relaxed and everything's been planned and prioritised and choreographed perfectly, and there's been so many rehearsals. And they're just so at ease and so comfortable because, wow, this is easier than school.
It's a really valuable experience to have at IA, to be put under that kind of pressure and that kind of scrutiny, because it's one thing to be in a workshop where there's perhaps Michael and one of us around who's watching to see the scene play out. If you're an actor who's then put on a set in front of 30, 40 people all looking at you, waiting for you to get it like that, if you haven't had that experience of having to deliver immediately or change something really quick, that could be potentially terrifying and crippling in a way. If suddenly, and you would panic, you know, and then not do your best work the way you could. So having that experience in the workshop before you even get to the set not only helps you, but the whole filmmaking team will really appreciate that you can just hit the ground running rather than let's spend more time we don't have while you figure out what we have to do, kind of thing. So it's really valuable.
And I think it's helpful that like the directors change a lot as well for them, so they don't get too comfortable with a single director that it's like, oh, the stakes are so low, you know, like it keeps them hungry. because there isn't that familiarity where it's like the same person every week. So at the end of 12 weeks, you're like, it just keeps them a little bit more.
I agree, because maybe it was last week I started thinking, oh, am I becoming softer because I've known these actors for so long now that it's harder to be like just neutral feedback. So I think it's good that it changes, it rotates, because then you don't see some actors for a while, and then you can kind of like be detached in the sense of giving honest feedback on their
and not becoming
performance.
too familiar with them.
Not becoming
almost friendly with them.
because you risk becoming friends and just being like, yeah, you're a great actor, well done, as opposed to giving constructive feedback.
Yeah. I think for the actors themselves as well, it's good to have different point of views, because we are all different directors. Yeah. We assess things differently. We have different notes we would give. Yeah. In a sense, I tend to be personally a little bit more analytical and more pedantic in the sense of like what they're doing on screen, less emotional and more just like very precise and so that's kind of how I tend to focus. And when I've worked with other directors in the class, it's like nice having lovely contrast, especially with Michael there as well, who obviously his feedback and his work will be more in a broader sense of like their overall performance, and in a sense of like in a way that they can kind of understand. And it's just for the actor, I can imagine I've seen it just be notes and notes, just like so much information, so much good tidbits that they take on. And
you've led me perfectly on to my next question, which is you just kind of touched on it already, but what is your approach to giving feedback in the workshops? So like what do you focus on in regards to performances when we do the workshops?
Well, me personally, I tend to, you want to start with the sugar,
Yes.
Yeah. So
good news or bad news, fella?
Yeah. You have to let them know that, listen, like you have to instill in them the confidence that no matter what has happened, what they did, they did it. They went out there, like these were the good points, these are the strong bits, this is where you nailed. And then you then evolve into where are the things that you could have adjusted, things that you might have missed, things that maybe they're not looking at the scene the right way, because we will always go through the scene a number of times. And what tends to happen is that the first time it's just making sure that they're locked in with the character. So it's not just about, cry here, wink here, laugh here. It's about what is your character's mental state, what do they want, what are they stripped of in that moment, making sure those are locked in, and then it would then evolve into like the more technical stuff, So that's just my approach.
So I've got exactly the same approach.
Yeah.
Start with the sugar.
Yeah.
Interesting that you say that. I feel like I allow myself to be still. Obviously, I feel like it always has to be constructive, because also you're directing the actors, and it might be that my notes weren't clear enough. But I kind of like that instinctual acting, because you're not on set. I can also be, and again, you start to know the actors, I can be a bit more honest, always in a constructive way, but be like, I think this thing wasn't working. I think it wasn't working because of this. Maybe it was my notes, maybe it was how you understood the character, maybe it's the writing. But I feel like I allow myself to be a bit more honest in what works for me and what doesn't, because it is a space where they're learning, and it kind of like Michael has created this space where we can discuss these things. And I also feel like the actors have they learn at IA to take that feedback, and instead of like take it personally, they build on it, and it usually seems to bring to better results.
So you don't need to sugarcoat it for them. That's the whole. But you're right. That is kind of the point of the workshops, is to be able to be brutally honest with them, and because on set it's going to be a lot more disheartening when you're saying, no, didn't like that. You should have hit that point there. You didn't make this face here, or you didn't give that motion there. So I think you're right. It is about being able to be honest with the actors, and I think they do appreciate it and they do take it on board.
Yeah.
And also on set, nobody would probably tell them or at a casting session, nobody's going to tell them, this is what didn't work for me. It's just going to be like, no. Well, I feel like at IA, you can say, I think this didn't work. Sometimes I say, I think my note wasn't clear enough. Other times it's like, oh, maybe, what did you think of this character? And often if you discuss character, I find that that's where the solution is. They have a different idea of the character, and you go together through something else.
That makes sense.
I think we agree on our techniques. It's funny because we've had the opportunity to co-direct a workshop once.
Nice.
I think it was very rogue. I'm not sure if it was planned that way or not. But one day we both show up and we're like, Luca.
The best moment for me was Katia saying like, "Oh, this is how you say these things, because I say them differently." And in my head, I had been thinking, "Oh, this is how she says this. This is how she speaks to actors," because I.
Like, I think similarly to what he says, I think you create a space where I think it's really important when you say hi to an actor at the start of the workshop that you kind of you create that sense of like, hey, I'm not here to come after anyone. We're all here to grow. And I always try, if I see something brilliant, I will absolutely highlight it, but I don't sugarcoat anything because they're better actors than I am. So they can see straight through my face anyway. So that would just create some level of dishonesty if they could just see that I'm trying to sugarcoat something and it's like not working for me. So I'd rather just be like, actually, that didn't land. I didn't feel that. And let's explore why that happened. And then like work together on the solution. Because it could be I misled you as a director. Maybe I didn't give the note. And like Luca said, maybe we didn't align on like who the character is, but also, and then sometimes they allow me to like they trust me enough to go into the direction that I'm taking them in, and like when you see the watchbacks at the end and you see that like that was like a momentously different interpretation, and that's like super rewarding, and it also confirms like, oh, okay, like that direction worked for that person at that time. It doesn't mean that it's going to work again with them the next week, because everyone's changes and evolves constantly. So that's kind of the challenge is like, you know, understanding who you have in front of you, where they're at in their acting journey as well. Because if someone's like really, really fresh and it's the first workshop they've ever done, of course, like there's going to be more sugar in it, because it's just like the act of coming here on that first workshop and the showing up part is what you're celebrating here, and then you're kind of you haven't had a chance to like really get to the core of what the person has to give yet. You're just trying to like allow themselves to act.
I completely agree with everything everyone said. What I found very enjoyable is when we've had the particular sessions where you have different actors playing the same roles, and you realise you as a director would approach that character differently depending on which actor is playing that particular part. So in the case of the Dracula workshop, we had I think 4 or 5 different actors playing the same parts, and in some cases there were even some that did the same scenes, but each actor you would give completely different feedback with or work with in a different way, because they were already bringing something authentic and different to it.
It was also a different performance in each one as well.
Exactly.
Totally right.
So that to me has always been very interesting, because I agree with obviously that was the sugar that we all like to give, but I wouldn't necessarily say either that you would give the same character notes to the same actor, because they're already bringing something different to it. And that to me is always fascinating, to see how different actors can bring something totally different to the same role, even in the same scene at times. And learning to absorb that as a director is actually really good as well, because you can go into it thinking, I have a vision for how this is going to be played, and then one actor does it, and you go, oh, okay, I'm adjusting slightly because you've done it this way, and then you try and meet them in the middle, and then another actor does it a completely different way. You're like, oh, okay, I can see this too, and if this is what we're working with, then this is maybe how I'd like this one to go. So having the flexibility on our side is always good as well, to have that.
They say sometimes I actually flip it, because sometimes I let them have their own interpretation of the character, but then other times I kind of force them into one, because it's then about like, okay, fine, can you adapt? Because sometimes like a character is a character, and it's like, okay, fine, it's almost like pitting them against each other, you know, to see like, okay, fine, this is what the character is, this is what the scene is, this is what it needs. Are you able to achieve that? And then there's some beautiful times where you'd see, if let's say 3 or 4 people are doing the same scene, at the end during the watchbacks, everybody's kind of saying like, okay, they're all kind of trying to do the same thing, and they're learning from each other. They're seeing like, oh, this person did it that way. Okay, cool. This person did it that way. Especially when you have 2 of the same actors in the room at the same time doing the same characters, because they're hearing the same notes, they're learning from each other, and you know, it really it's a different look to
That's actually one of my favorite parts of the workshops, when you have two actors who have done the same role, and then you watch it back on screen, and usually they both brought something good to the part. Maybe one is better than the other sometimes, but you as a director as well learn, oh, as you were saying, oh, this role could have been done like this, could have been done like that. It's quite beautiful when that happens.
But even so, whatever scene you're watching back, the fact that when those watch back elements happen, what's really nice is how you can hear all the actors supporting each other in those sessions. Like you can hear them like audibly reacting to what they're seeing the others do, and it's a very supportive environment, regardless of what feedback might be given on the scene itself. Just that support in the room, you can literally hear it when it's happening, and that's always really nice.
And I do think it's actually, this is something I never say out loud. It's so simple, but the fact that at IA we do it with a screen, to me it's essential, because in the end this is a visual art that goes on screen, and so many times I watch a take in real life and I think something of it, and then I watch it on screen and my judgment changes. So I think it's really important that they see themselves back, because it's always a little bit different what the camera reads, kind of.
And sometimes and each person is different. So I think my favorite part of it is like, in a fraction of a second, you have to analyze the situation, understand which word you need to communicate to go in the direction that you want to go in.
What's this? What the approach is to each actor?
Yeah, because we were just kind of reminiscing.
I'm not laughing at you, sorry. You just made me think of something, that's all.
Now I want to know. We were reminiscing on the idea of like...
Did I work with you on what you're laughing at? I know exactly.
Okay, now you're both in, so let's hear it.
No.
It was a fresh actor, and it was like one of their first sessions, or one of their first workshops, and they just did not know any of the script. Everyone else knew the script, but they did not. And it was. We done a few takes, and we ended up like, our approach to it in the end was to just cut it up basically into like 1 or 2 lines, and then cut there. Okay, right, read the next one, and just help them get through it. First and foremost, I've seen that actor recently, and they have come on leaps and bounds. But yeah, it was quite tricky to work, because you get to a point where your notes just aren't going in. The actors are so in their head sometimes that they're just worried about making sure they get every word right. And Michael said it as well, like, you don't have to get every word perfect. It's about saying it in your own interpretation. And that's one thing I've noticed about actors is when they are so focused on just making sure they hit every single word on that page, it throws them off and they don't give the best performance. They really need to digest the words and the script, and then it can come out in their own words. And a lot of the time that gives a much better performance, I've found.
But you have to build that trust in themselves.
100%, it is totally a learning curve.
That's like what we were working on actually this week with Michael, is like improv scenes around their character to create just that sense of like, you'll be able to talk with the other person in character. Just trust yourself. If you forget the line, if you know your character, you're fine. And you'll be able to finish the scene. Now, in a professional context, there's times in which you absolutely have to stick to the script word for word. But, to know going into a scene that if you're not text perfect, you're still going to be able to complete the take is quite a good thing for them to have in terms of self-confidence going into it. And like the performances changed drastically as soon as they kind of let go. And I've had like an actor present as well once where you could tell they were so critical about what they were doing, that it wasn't about me giving them notes. It was just about me saying to them like, you need to lean into your own skill and talent and craft that you've been building for years, and
trust yourself.
Trust yourself. And also, this is like a sand pit. You build something, it could stand, it can fall, it's fine. No one's judging you. It's a safe space. This is where you grow. And like when you establish those kind of playful boundaries, that's where you kind of see the magic come in. And I mean, that's the biggest reward for, I think, us as directors, is to just watch that thing just click in place for that person, and then you go home and you're like, I did my job.
This is also something that I love that comes out at IA, which I think is a great learning curve for the actors, which is many times it's happened with me and Michael that we tell them, don't cut your, like, don't stop your performance unless we say cut. And it's happened a few times where we're seeing an actor do their scene and they just stop, they panic, maybe they think they've done it wrong, and they're like, can we do it again? And if that was happening in a real casting situation a couple of times, I would start losing trust in the actors.
Totally.
And IA is where we tell them, don't stop yourself. Unless we tell you that we're cutting, just keep going. Because most of the times, I don't care that they got the line wrong if the mood is right, if the vibe is right.
If they can stay in character, definitely.
Yeah.
I've noticed that when actors just go, oh, sorry,
Yeah.
can we go again? It's like, you're doing really well, actually.
Yeah, and we've told them we tell them, keep going, like don't stop it.
Never break character.
Yeah.
No, that's maybe one of my little annoyances as well on set. If it happens for real and like an actor decides when to cut the scene, unless something you really went wrong and like, you know, it just naturally is a cut or like a bad take. But yeah, it's just like, no, that your job is not to think about when this ends. That's my job.
It's a great point, because if it happens on set and maybe it was your last take of the, like on set, it could cause real damage.
Or it's like, if I'm shooting on film and that's literally the last 100 feet that you just burned through and you decided it wasn't good enough, like, you know, like that's why I think you have that idea of like letting go into the character and having that external person who's the director who's like kind of managing all of the other variables. And that's why it's important to just like do your best and then let the teamwork happen.
Is there anything specifically you're looking forward to with IA coming up?
I think the expansion, getting more resources open for the students, getting them more, like to experience them, like seeing them grow more, seeing all the benefits that will do to them and their career and their journeys, and just bringing more people in, diverse, different levels of experience, that kind of stuff I'm excited for.
Yeah, I think I don't say this obviously just because I'm part of it. Like, I do think IA is quite special because again, it made me change my opinion on the fact that acting is a natural skill. So I am looking forward to it. It's the first time in my life that I'm into something where like I see actors grow over such a long period of time. So I'm looking forward to see the ones I know growing even further, and the new ones that I'm starting to know, to see where they will get with IA. And obviously, yeah, with the expansion, that would be even greater. There is more classes and more resources for sure. Yeah.
I think I'm looking forward to like leading more workshops as well. Like, I think that's something Michael mentioned. I love working with Michael because I think I've learned a lot from watching him direct the actors, from, you know, because he has a relationship with them that's like longer standing as well. Like sometimes he'll push them in a certain direction and I'm like, okay, they took that well, and like I wouldn't have necessarily given myself the license to do that based on how well I knew them at the time. So that's been really great. But I think I'd also love to lead some of them. I love the screenwriting workshops as well. And I think, Luca, once you told me that like at IA there's something in the water and there's something that they're doing right in terms of like the
Indeed.
progression of the actors, because you know you've compared different environments. And
I don't say this just because I'm here. I have actually been impressed. I have been impressed at how much progress the actors make at IA. So I've started recommend like actors that I work with. I've started telling them, oh, if you want to take some classes, you should actually check it out, because not because I work there, but because I've seen massive improvements in places where I didn't necessarily think there would be a change. So yeah.
I agree with everything everyone said. I think the expansion is really exciting. I love the fact that there's a screenwriting element to it now, which I think will help the actors have a whole new appreciation of how to interpret a script and how to interpret a scene. Because when they're writing their own, they'll know how important each word is, why it's in there, what the performer should take from it. Which perhaps when you haven't written a script and you're just reading it, you might be a little more. You might pick and choose what you want to take from it, but I think once you've written one, you'll know, no, this is here for a reason, and this is something you need to think about and interpret. I do love rooting for every single actor that we've worked with, and when I see them pop up in something on TV, I'll quite often drop them a message and go, oh, I just saw you in this, like, well done, like, nice one. Like Marco especially gets a lot of messages from me because he seems to pop up everywhere. But I also do love it when I never know which actors are going to be at the workshop whenever I attend.
Yeah.
And it's always lovely when it's a familiar face, but also when it's a brand new face. And there's always someone new coming through the door, and you're going to see something you haven't seen before just because it's a new person that's through the door. And that's always exciting. And that makes every workshop interesting because you never know who's going to be there. And that's something that always gets me excited for whenever I'm going to be in for a workshop.
We're going to have to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. And if you're an actor or a director and want to get in contact with us, website will be at the end of this video. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.